You're watching TVC Breakfast. It's time for the headlines now, and we'll go through the newspapers in Nigeria, see what the headlines are this morning. I have with me a lawyer and social development advocate, Jide Ologun, joining me on Skype to this review right now. Jide, good morning. It's good to have you join me this morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Great. Now, let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust is focusing on insecurity, and he says that over 500 people killed in 10 states in 3 months. Bandits, kidnappers, terrorists attacking communities, and troops from Niger protecting our people in Sokoto. That's a senator is saying that. And Senate urges Buhari to extend onslaught against bandits to Zamfara, Kaduna, and others. Okay, this is quite troubling, and I know my guests would like to talk about this as it really affects the people. From there, let's go to Daily Times. Daily Times said Senate probes 1.532 trillion naira power sector intervention. Once privatization of sector revoked, constant electricity can't be guaranteed. All right. Or if constant electricity can be guaranteed, exactly. All right, from Daily Times, let's go to the Leadership newspaper. Leadership says plan for reopening in 2 weeks. Federal government tells businesses, schools, worship centers. All right, urges stakeholders to strike balance between safety and economic considerations, and assures journalists and other essential workers of adequate protection. Cautions infected persons against concealment, and insists Madagascar herbal remedy was a gift. Mefiele woos conglomerates for post-COVID-19 economy, and the list goes on some of the sub-headlines there. All right, let's go to the national economy. Power sector outlook positive as Senate seeks review of privatization. Power sector outlook positive. Okay, and Nigeria should prioritize renewable energy. Experts are saying this. And federal government sacks the TCN MD and names Abdulaziz as replacement. All right, that's the national economy. Blueprint newspaper is the next now we're looking at, and it's focusing on banditry. 5,000 Nigerians migrated to Niger Republic. That's the Senate is saying this. Really very troubling headlines there. Seeks military intervention. Buhari's immediate action. All right. These are very troubling headlines. All right, from there, let's go to News Direct. News Direct says TCN labor crisis. Federal government sacks Mohammed, appoints Abdulaziz as new MD. Senior electricity workers celebrate and says removal of disorder, arrogance, impunity, and turmoil. All right, that's how they put it there. And that's the story you see on the front page of News Direct. Okay, Jide, let me bring you back in here. Let me bring you in here on the story on the front page of the Daily Trust, insecurity, where he says over 500 people killed in 10 states in 3 months. This is quite troubling at this time. Insecurity hasn't been making headlines as much as it had in the last year. But that is not to say things are not happening. Things are really happening down there. How troubling is this for you? What do you make of this story?
It is very disturbing and frightening, and above all, quite embarrassing. If you look at it from leadership angle, my president, whom I respect so much, is a retired military general, a former military head of state, commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and also from the northern part of Nigeria. And there was a promise to deal with the insecurity that we've been having in Nigeria as part of the electoral promises in 2015. And I was disturbed when earlier this year, the president himself confessed that we're only dealing with Boko Haram before 2015, but that today we are dealing with bandits and different kinds of other crimes. And I hope that this regime will appreciate the impact of history, that the characteristics of this regime shall be recorded by history. I just want to assure Nigerians today that the level of insecurity in this country will also join the record of history. Someday, God, somehow, and through our own deliberate effort in Nigeria, we will restore security. And don't let us forget that security is the forerunner of prosperity. But let's cast our mind back to some salient issues that may help us. At a time in this nation, we allowed foreigners to come in here, and these were not skilled foreigners. Like I was discussing with someone, they could have been criminals in other countries that we brought in. And rather than check it, we started making excuses. At a point, we even started registering them, e-registration, to incorporate them into the system. So why are we now raising alarm? But I appreciate the senator who has, reason to say that the recent order by the president of Nigeria of military action in Katsina State should be extended to Zamfara, Niger, and other states.
All right, we seem to be losing your signal, Jide. Okay, Jide Ologun is our guest today. Okay, I understand Jide is back on now. Jide, go ahead. You were saying something. Now, the point there is, besides the story on Daily Trust, is another troubling one on the Blueprint newspaper that talks about banditry, and he said that 5,000 Nigerians migrated to Niger Republic. This means Nigeria is losing some of its citizens. That is not to say on a permanent basis, though, the Nigerians on distress. We also remember Nigerians who are in parts of Chad and who were also in parts of Cameroon from the insecurity that we had recorded in the Northeast in the past few years.
It's quite worrisome, but not so worrisome to me if you look at the quality of the manpower that is migrating to Niger Republic, reportedly. They are not highly skilled. And that's why many of us are calling on this government to pay attention to education. They are likely to be those who are struggling to make ends meet and are being embattled by bandits and criminals. So they had to migrate. And it's not just that they are going to Niger Republic. And if we even want to isolate that case, then that means there is likely to be a synergy of tolerance between Nigeria and Niger Republic in tolerating crime. Recently, the president of Chad himself led an onslaught against the Boko Haram, and he dislodged them from Chad. And reportedly, they started coming into Nigeria. And in Nigeria now, the Nigerians are beginning to express their concerns that the Almanjiris, who are likely to be the young cadets of this group we are talking about, are being dispersed to other parts of the country. So what exactly is going on? And don't let us forget allegations in the past that events are almost overrunning. I bring our memory back to what General Theophilus Danjuma said. Some of us will go and check it, that there is probably an attempt of ethnic cleansing in Nigeria. At the time we woke up to cattle colony, at the time we woke up to a warning from Chief Olusegun Obasanjo about Fulanization, I will not join the group of those who will want to ignore this warning when you look at what we are beginning to experience in the country. But like I said earlier, if this regime, because you just have a window of opportunity in managing the country, wants to be on the golden side of history, it is imperative that we establish security. If you go to Section 14 of Section 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it states that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And I want to ask you this morning, Mr. Mai, that if the primary purpose of government is defeated, what is the essence of that government?
Exactly. That's the big question. That's the big question. Thank you. We have to leave it here now. Thank you very much, Jide Ologun, for your time on the program. Get into the papers now, see what the headlines are across Nigeria. We have on Skype a lawyer and social development advocate Jide Ologun to help us make sense of some of the headlines we'll be seeing on the papers this morning. Jide, it's good to have you join me.
Great, Mike. Good morning.
Great. Now let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. Insecurity, over 500 people killed in 10 states in 3 months. That is what that's the story on the front page of Daily Trust. and bandits, kidnappers, terrorists attacking communities. It's quite troubling there. All right, from Daily Trust, let's go to Daily Times. Senate probes 1.532 trillion naira power sector intervention and wants privatization of sector revoked if constant electricity can't be guaranteed, and seeks suspension of planned tariff increase scheduled to take effect July the 1st, and federal government sacks TCN MD, names successor, confirms appointment of 4 directors. All right, certainly this will interest my guests to talk about when we open the discussion. From that, let's go to Leadership newspaper. Plan for reopening in 2 weeks. Federal government tells businesses, schools, worship centers, and urges stakeholders to strike a balance between safety and economic considerations. All that on the front page of Leadership newspaper. From there, let's go to the national economy. Power sector outlook positive as Senate seeks review of privatization. Nigeria should prioritize renewable energy, as experts are saying that. Federal government sacks the TCN MD and names Abdulaziz as replacement. Okay. All right, this also relates to the story we'll be looking at. Blueprint newspaper is next now. Banditry is the focus here. 5,000 Nigerians migrated to Niger Republic, and the Senate is revealing here. And 6 military intervention, Buhari's immediate action here. Okay, this is on the blueprint. News Direct is next now on TCN labor crisis. That's the focus here. Federal government sacks Mohammed, appoints Abdulaziz as new MD. Senior electricity workers celebrate, says removal of disorder, arrogance, impunity, and turmoil. Okay, that's what you see on the front page of the News Direct. All right, Jide, let me bring you to the story on the front page of Daily Times, where the Senate is probing 1.532 trillion naira power sector intervention. Now, since the last 20 years, there has been deliberate intervention and bailout and pumping of funds into the power sector. Nigerians still haven't seen that translating into the kind of electricity they should be seeing. Now, what will be the difference here if you have been monitoring?
Let's start with content analysis. The attempt to have electricity in Nigeria dates back to 1886, when a generator was, installed in Lagos to generate 60 kilowatts of electricity. And I know also that a plant was installed in Broad Street as far back as 1898 or thereabout. And here we are today, we still don't have electricity. There is a report that in the last 21 years, Nigeria has spent $20 billion in providing lasting solutions to its power challenges. And here we are. And let me also give you a World Bank report that the per capita consumption of electricity in Nigeria is about 142 kilowatts. And the average per capita consumption of electricity in China as at 1971 was 151.98 kilowatts. Obviously higher than what Nigeria even records 47 years after. So we really need to get serious. I was monitoring the mistake, the error of bringing the Mambila project into what the Abacha loot recovered. And will it not shock you to know that the Mambila Dam was constructed in 1982 during the Second Republic, when Alhaji Shehu Shagari was the president? We have done several kinds of things to bring electricity, but Olajide Agbola Logun, I stated this morning that when my government is ready to give us electricity and move us on the path of development, it will be done. As I talk to you, we supply electricity to the Niger Republic, Benin Republic, and I think Togo. In fact, recently, they were all owing us about 30 billion naira. So the essence of the government, if you look at Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, is to bring the citizens maximum happiness and to make provisions for our well-being, economically and in every sense of it. So if this government wakes up to that mandate, we begin to develop as a nation, because electricity is crucial to national development. Even when we talk about the social life, the economy drives the social life. You can see how COVID-19 has come to really shake us and expose the inefficiency of our infrastructure in the country. But I also want to advise, beyond all this probing and trying to query, why won't the National Assembly address the issue of the national grid and deconcentrate the management of electricity from the federal level? I know that in Cross River State, for instance, Professor Benedict Ayade, the executive governor, generates electricity. It's about the distribution. We'll be complaining that we don't have gas, yet my great nation has the largest deposit of proven gas in Africa.
All right.
So what exactly is wrong? So the government needs to wake up. It is the responsibility of the government to deliver a vibrant economy to us. And I am challenging Nigerians this morning. I'm pleading, can you do me a favor? Give me just 10 minutes. Go and study Section 16 of our Constitution. It will amaze you, and you'll be forced to ask a question that, are we making progress or regressing as a nation? But I can tell you, all the capabilities and capacities to give constant electricity in Nigeria, they are there. Perhaps we just need to come together.
All right, Jide, let me interrupt you a little bit. The point there is, we have, from all of these probes and committees and interventions and, you know, looking into what was spent, how it was used, this is not the first, this is not the second, this is not the third time this is coming up one way or the other, either independent committees or committees within the National Assembly and all of that. But the point there is, one area here the Senate is looking at is the issue of revisiting the privatization policy. Do you think that's where really to start from?
Visiting the privatization policy is just a step, but deliberately solving the problem is another. George Eliot said, it is never too late to be what you might have been. Are we considering the impact? We are talking of almanjiris, we are talking of bandits. Let me ask you these simple questions. Imagine that we have electricity in Nigeria. It will bring down the cost of production. The government will even make revenue through it. We have more industry springing up. We start dealing with the challenge of unemployment, and it will, escalate into other benefits. It will make our environment attractive. What makes Dubai attractive? Dubai is a city. Sir, the United States of America has 50 states and constant electricity in all the 50 states. And I will tell you the secret. The mindset of the governance system in the USA is that electricity is a fundamental human right. I've asked this simple question before. If there is a law that forbids the use of generator in Aso Villa, in governors' lodges, in key officials' residence and offices, we will not solve the problems of Nigeria. I think we are running a government of indulgence.
All right.
And wasting resources. Do you know how much we spend on generators? You will be shocked to realize the budget of generators.
Very mind-boggling, I must say. Really very mind-boggling. But we have to leave it here now. Thank you so much, Jide Ologun, for your time on the program. Thank you so much.